Make me shine just a little bit, just a little bit. With just a touch of love. Send my mind just a little bit, just a little bit. Keep me high, baby, just a little bit, just a little bit. With just a touch of love. Can we spend some time? Okay, welcome. My name is Christian Stovall, the American Heiress, and today we're going to be talking about Eminent Domain, Black Land Theft, Original American Truths, and the movie Wreck-It Ralph. So I started to think about, about, how do I want to put this? Well, maybe we should start with who I am, right? And a lot of us, I know, what's so funny is now that I think about it, so many of us find comfort and value and worth in the jobs that we hold because we don't know who we are otherwise. It's very interesting. It was a deep version. But I am what I am, but also a descendant of some truly historic American families, clans, tribes, and it was through the understanding of who I descend from that I started to realize that something was very, very wrong here. And that this system, this establishment, needed Black people to forget who we were. And mind you, there are so many different things that went into us losing our roots and our connections. It was through the miseducation, teaching us that we are from other places. It was through the fact that we couldn't tell anybody that we were indigenous to the land because that would put huge targets on our backs as heirs, as estate holders, as land and property owners. There's many accounts of elders talking about their elders and how you could not say that you were indigenous. It was dangerous. They needed us to not know who we were, because if we knew who we were, we would be still in our proper place to enforce the treaties and contracts that were made with our ancestors. And that is really what we're talking about here today. I am a descendant of the Indian kings and queens of Virginia who signed the Treaty of Middle Plantation in the 1600s. Oh, and you know what else is so funny? A few streams ago, I had posted a video that I had recorded of me and my daughter like 5-6 years ago, where she channeled the ancestors, the royals of the Tidewater of Virginia, and how they felt when colonists came with guns and knives and just were shooting and killing people to take the land. And I was reading what woke her ancestral memory up was reading the history, our history connected to our blood and our DNA. And when I went back I'm coming on back right now. When I went back just yesterday or the day before to look for those articles on nps.gov, they have scrubbed all of it. And people, you don't even know. Those of us who are telling the truth out here, you don't know how important and how much attention these people in this establishment is paying attention to the truths that you are telling. And it tells me that I'm right on point. So the history, what it told was all of the real things that happened to the Virginia Indians and the royal families that helped keep their people together. We had like intricate trade routes. It gets deep. All right. Hi, welcome, welcome. Hey, what's good, Brunsberg? Peace, peace, peace. But it also talked about what happened to the treaty signers of the Treaty of Middle Plantation. What happened to those signers? Well, the English encouraged the signers to send their children, right? The fresh youth, the leaders of the next generation, to go to school so they can learn how to be servants on prominent plantations. It's important. And that's why the ancestors are saying, baby, you have to tell the story. You have to tell the story, because our history, my specific bloodline's history, ties treaties, indigenous history to plantation and slaves. And we weren't slaves, we were prisoners of war. And if I have time at the end of this, I will link in some articles. I think CNN did an article some years ago about the servants, okay, the people on Mount Vernon, and that's also my ancestor. So and it gets deep. Like I'll do some other videos about that. But I see that, this history, and that's another reason why it's so important now for us to rally together, for us to come together, for us to unify and close ranks. That's what I kept getting. That was like the channeled message over the past few days. We have to close ranks, because as much as we are getting the information out there, we're waking up, we are also not realizing that we have to combat the disinformation system. Like once they know we know something, next it might become harder and harder to find that information. And that's not even just within the like indigenous truther community. That's like all truther communities. I was listening to this this young lady on Instagram, and she was, she shares some of this, not this information, but her own things that she's trying to get truth to. And she was talking about how long it took for her to find this clip to be able to share with her audience, right? Because they are scrubbing the internet from things they don't want people to know. But we know, okay, we know. And so, along with the Indian kings of queens of Virginia, I'm a descendant of the Coxes, okay, of Kakakoeske, Wahasinakak, okay, who was Pocahontas's father, and Kakakoeske was her cousin. We come from the Cox. It just became Cox after a while. And we are the patent holders to one of the grandest and most historic estates in all of Virginia. And this is what this is about. People don't understand that even today, the wage gap between Black Americans and white Americans isn't because we were lazy or we were enslaved for so long. No, it's because of the land theft. Perhaps we can get into that. Let me see. Because I want to talk a little bit about the, let me see. So we're on inequality.org. Can somebody please let me know if y'all can see that? Hi, welcome everybody who's come through. So at the beginning of the 20th century, African Americans owned at least 14 million acres of land. By the 21st century, 90% of the land had been stolen from them, okay? Now, do you understand what I'm saying? People don't realize that, American history was all about us, about the colonization of the American Negro, about the identity theft, the land theft, and, the more that I learned about myself and my history, okay, the more I was even able to recognize it in these movies. Okay, so the movie Wreck-It Ralph, I'm gonna give you guys like a little brief overview, and then we're gonna get into some of the clips and stuff like that. But it's all about these two arcade game characters. Let's see if I have anything queued up. Ralph and Vanellope, who are like hated in their game. Okay, they're face discrimination. It is very obvious that they represent Negroes by like the little things that the movie shows, and I will show some of those clips in just a second. But truly, what we find out is that they were actually, the games were all about them. Okay, and they were the rightful rulers of the game, and that all we had to do was come together and stand up. Really, that was the that was the basis of the movie. And I will get into more of Vanellope's story in the next live stream, but right now we're going to focus on Ralph and Eminent Domain. Okay, so first let's establish that these are so-called Negroes. Let me see. Oh, hold on, y'all. So I did this this decode video like 5 or 6 years ago, and we're gonna watch just a little bit about it. I mean, a little bit of it, so that we can get some of the symbolism, and then we're gonna move on to the Eminent Domain. Okay. Well, before we even get into that, can you guys hear me? Right now, there's a family in Georgia who is facing their land being taken from them through eminent domain, and we're going to look at a couple of that example plus a couple of other ones in recent and past history. As we get in, so let's get into it. I mean, guys, so this is why it's so like I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm trying to get into some double dutch. Okay, and like, when am I going to hop in? Because it's like I don't even. Where do you start with everything that I've understood? I feel like because these are such seemingly like huge claims, okay, I'm like, I want to show all the proof out right now, because I feel like that's like, no, we just have to relax, and we have to come together to build all the proof and the evidence. That's another thing we're gonna get into it. But okay, let's get into the things so you guys want to see. Let's see. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, today we're going to be decoding the movie Wreck-It Ralph. Yes, the movie Wreck-It Ralph is all about us so-called black folk here in America and how we are actually the rightful rulers of this country. This is our land, and all we have to do is stand up and the game is over. All right, let's get into it. First things first is we need to establish that Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope are both a so-called black man and woman. Let's start with taking a look at how everyone else in their games treat them. Get rid of him, Felix. Hide the stemware is a microaggression which stems from the myth that black people steal. It is akin to a white woman clutching her purse or crossing the street when she sees a black guy.
There's no way that I am racing with a glitch.
Our boys aren't playing for some coach coon.
Okay, let's look at their relationship with the authorities.
Step aside, sir. Random security check.
Random my behind. You always stop me.
I'm just a surge protector doing my job, sir.
Now we got him.
Oh, good. The cops. She went that way.
What the? Oh, yeah.
What are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing?
So let's check out where both Vanellope and Ralph live. They have very similar living situations.
When I say a dump, I don't mean like a shabby place. I mean an actual dump where the garbage goes and a bunch of bricks and smashed building parts. That's what I call home.
Welcome to my home. I sleep in these candy wrappers and I bundle myself up like a little homeless lady.
By yourself? There's all this garbage around you?
Well, yeah. I mean, everyone here says I'm just a mistake and that I wasn't even supposed to exist. What do you expect?
So on top of the police brutality, the fact that they live in the ghetto, and everybody else in society treats them like crap, Ralph and Vanellope are the villains of the game. Now, I've mentioned this many times before that in these movies, they always make us so-called Black people the villains. I mean, ask the eldest person in your family if they're from America and the South, what kind of people were here when they were growing up, and they will tell you there was only Black and white. And the secret is that Black folks are actually here first, and the newcomers are actually the colonists, the so-called white people, meaning that we have been colonized by a foreign entity. And through that colonization, we have left our own institutions to join and assimilate into their institutions. We just forgot that we are our own separate nation. And through that, we no longer own anything. I mean, we don't own our own TV stations, radio stations. We have zero media outlet right now. And think about it. If now everything that we see on the TV is coming from the colonists' perspective, and they always paint us to be the villain, and we are rooting for the heroes, then we find ourselves to be in a situation where we're rooting against ourselves.
In the case of an American Negro, it comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. That the Indians were you.
There's a scene in the movie where Ralph goes to a Bad Anon meeting. Now, these Bad Anon meetings are like a support group for all of the other villains from these arcade games. Now, if you don't believe me that they always make the villains so-called Black people, let's take a closer look at the villains that they highlighted in this meeting. Okay, let's check it out. So the first villain we're going to take a look at is Zangief. Do not be confused by the fact that he has pale skin. When we look up the definition of Zangief, it says it is derived from the Persian word Zangi, meaning dark-skinned or a Negro. When you look up the word Zangi, it does indeed say that it means nigger. So yes, upon closer inspection, this villain, Zangief, represents the so-called Black people because his name literally means nigger. Now, while we're on the topic of the N-word, did you guys know that according to the Oxford English Dictionary, definition 3A for nigger, it says that in early U.S. history, when they were talking about niggers, they're actually talking about the American Indians.
Do you know who you are?
In his own land. In his own land. In his own land.
For the second villain, they have chosen to highlight a zombie. Now, in previous decodes, we've already established that zombies represent so-called Black people. In fact, those Disney movies, Zombies 1 and 2, are all about so-called Black people. I mean, goodness, the whole integration story, the fact that the zombies were really good at sports. There was so many things that made the zombies so-called Black people, including the fact that they can dance.
How's it better to have zombies at prom? Our dance game's strong. What?
So not only are zombies so-called Black people, but they have this zombie carrying these hatchets. In fact, they even mention the hatchets before this scene is over. Let's check that out.
Hey, zombie, don't forget your hatchet. There you go.
We used to call them tomahawks. And of course, that's in reference to The peace ceremony, which is burying the hatchet, and that's in American Indian tradition.
Magnificent suits we so enjoy. For the past several Fat Tuesdays, we've had the honor of covering the Ninth Ward Black Hatchet Tribe. They're amongst the prettiest, but the pandemic has affected them as well.
It's affecting us the same way it's affecting most of America. I mean, a lot of us are out of work, dealing with the self-quarantine and everything.
Now, this is what a true Indigenous American looks like. This is Big Chief Dowie Robert from the Ninth Ward Black Hatchet Tribe. Now, we have just forgotten that hatchets have anything to do with us, but that was the tool that we used. We used it for hunting. We used it as a weapon. So the other thing I wanted us to note was that their tribe is called the Ninth Ward Black Hatchet Tribe. Did you know that according to the Colorado Encyclopedia, the United States government declared through the Indian Appropriations Act of 1871 that the true indigenous people of America were to become wards of the United States government. This act also paved the way for other laws that granted the federal government increased power over the land and lives of indigenous people. So go back and check your ancestors' records. Check the census records. See if they were so-called Negro or colored people living in wards. If so, those are the indigenous people of America. Here is the 5th Ward of West Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Here is the 12th census, the 6th Ward of Leavenworth, Kansas. Mind you, Schedule number 1, those Schedule 1 populations are for free people. And lastly, this is Henrico County, Virginia, Clay Ward. Yes, we became wards of the state, wards of the government after 1871. So next is Satine. So Ralph turns around and calls him Satan, and he corrects him and says, it's Satine, actually. So I got really curious. So when I researched Satine, I first noticed that it's from the language family Afroasiatic, Semitic, which could also be identifiers for so-called Black people. And it literally means silk or satin. Now that's significant because silk was among the most notable materials used in Moorish clothing. So now I hope it's very, very clear that Ralph and Penelope are so-called Black people. They live in the ghetto, everyone treats them like crap, they're subjected by the authorities, and Ralph goes to a Badanon meeting with other villains that are obviously so-called Black as well.
Okay, so I'm just checking in, you guys. So that we just went over a lot of information. I'm telling you, when I get into these movies, I get into like deep dives, okay? And some of the things I just wanted to highlight really quickly. There was a whole scene of him getting beaten by the police, like literally a recreation, a cartoon recreation of, you know, the Rodney King beating. There was also, I don't know. Let's just keep going. So we just saw them, the whole villain thing. There's a lot. There's a lot. If you go back and rewind, I might repost the video that we're watching. It's on private right now. I've just there's a lot of things that I'm I don't know. We ought to get into that. So let's just continue watching. And then we're gonna what do you call it? Get into the eminent domain nowadays.
Symbolically, we should all be very clear on who we are talking about. I mentioned in the beginning of this decode that this movie also proves that we are the rightful rulers and that this is our land. So let's get into that part of the decode now. After this Badanon meeting, Ralph and the other villains leave through these power cords and go into this power strip, these outlets, and into what they call in this movie the Game Central Station, which is fashioned after Grand Central Station. And as soon as they enter into Game Central Station, they zero in on this outlet. Now, this outlet was so symbolic. Outlets represent power, represents source. Every outlet has a feminine and masculine piece, and that represents creation. Now, this outlet says USA, right? So they're giving us an area, a place, what they're talking about. But in even bigger lettering, it has the word more in what could be interpreted to be like a school. Now, they're letting us know who the true owners of America are, right? The Moors, if you will. Now, they also have a hieroglyph, and that's also showing us that ancient America has more of a Negro origin than they want to ever let us know about. Now, on top of all of this, after they show us this outlet with the words more in the United States and this hieroglyph, the frame pans over. Now listen closely to the very next words that are spoken. Yes, you heard that right. All aboard the Soul Train. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Soul Train was a show that was started in the 1970s. It is specifically an American Negro show. So that was Disney's way of letting us know, yes, the connection between Moors and America. That culture is something that we are very, very familiar with. We are the soul people. We are the soul of America. And this is our country. Now you have to ask yourself, why is Disney putting this in this movie? Why would they put those words more? Why are they putting this hieroglyph? What does this have to do with anything? And why, after showing us all this imagery and symbolism, would the very next words be all aboard the Soul Train of all things? Shall we hear it one more time? All aboard the Soul Train. All we have to do is stand up.
Okay, so I might release that in little parts in near the future, because I'm rewatching, I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. But it gets so deep. But so now we've established that Ralph and Vanellope represent Black people. But it's not just about the decode. There's so much, because there's the movie. We'd be here, like I said, that was a 30-minute video, and there was like 2 of those of the, like, to get through all of the symbolism, right? But without even getting into like more of the breakdown of the movie, at the end of the movie, okay, let me cue that up real quick. At the end of the movie,
We are
hold on. Can you still hear that?
so sorry about the.
At the end of the movie, there's a part where like, you know, like when they're rolling the credits, there's a song that comes on, right? And I'm gonna play it for you. Now, mind you, talk about scrubbing the internet, right? Because I've been talking about this for a long time. Now they took the song off of YouTube. And that's another reason why I'm like really reconsidering putting up some of these old videos, because it contains the documentation from these, you know, whether it's the movies or the nps.gov. Like, I went even back to the link that I had posted 5-6 years ago from the nps doc. I'm still on it, because I'm just like, you know, it's so frustrating to find some information. Now, next thing you know, it's like, oh, you can't find it anymore. It's like, you know, and that's another thing that we are doing here with the fair is it's a joint effort. It's us coming together so that, you know, we can address some of these things, you know, as an organization, as a collective, so that, you know, even when there's other people who are out there and they're trying to collect this information or this history so that they can make their declarations as far as, you know, getting back land, or just identity benefits, whatever it is. Okay, you know, we need backup. There's nobody for us to call right now. And you know, that is also an intention and goal of the fair, is so that people would be able to call and we could be like, okay, hey, we have these people in this state. They can go and assist you to these counties so that you can get the records or whatever the situation is. You know what I mean? Right now, as Black people, so-called Black people, okay. And another thing, I was watching the videos and I'm like, Negro, and I'm hearing some of our people are like, why does she keep calling us Negroes? You know what I mean? And the reason why I'm saying that is because it's like, I feel like, yeah, this is going to segue me right into, you know, more of the foundation, and especially because if you haven't watched before, there's a lot of evidence and proof that we are gathering for, you know, so-called Black people here in America as far as our true identity. And a lot of it does surround these labels that we have been given, okay? Even though the term African American was just given to us in the 90s from Jesse Jackson. God rest his soul, you know what I mean? But I feel like that's even symbolic now. We can get into that more later. Let me stay on track. But at the end of the movie, there's a song called the Wreck-It Ralph song. I was talking about the scrubbing. So they scrubbed it off of the YouTube. They took it off of Apple Music. All of the soundtrack information, like, it's like it doesn't exist unless you watch the movie. And I have it now. I in this decode that I did some years ago, I have a clip of it. So we're going to listen to it right now. And you can still listen if you watch through the credits on Disney Plus. Okay. And it's like, I even hate, it's like scary now to even say anything, because it's like, you know, they're snatching stuff, you know what I mean, where you can't find it once they hear that people are a little bit aware of what's going on. But let me play the song and then I'll tell you, and then you'll see why it is something that they wouldn't want us to turn hip to. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna try that one more time. I realized that it was on mute. Here we go, guys.
Wreck-It Ralph is a giant of a man, 9 feet tall with really big hands, living in a stump on his very own land. Living in a stump on his very own land.
In his own land. In his own land. In his own land.
Yes, you heard that right. Ralph, the one who's been beaten by the police, the one who lives in the ghetto, the one who has to look at all the rest of the nations live it up in the high-rise apartments and enjoy all the luxuries of life and get their medals. He is actually the landowner. Okay. And that goes the same for us. That's the reason why they treat us poorly. That's the reason why we're at the bottom of society. This is the reason why we've been put into ghettos. This is the reason why the police mess with us, is because we are actually the indigenous people of America. And that is how they subject and usurp people.
Until his world went crazy. He was minding his own business on the day they came. They showed a piece of paper saying eminent domain. They showed a piece of paper saying eminent domain.
Eminent domain is a huge keyword. That is literally the policy that the government used to steal the American Indians' land. Let's not forget, the American Indians were called niggas, okay? They are talking about us so-called Black folk, all right? Eminent domain is the power of the government to take land for public use based on the concept of vacuum domicilium, meaning literally nobody home. It was so-called Black people who lost all of the land. Did you guys know that? I mean, here's an article from history.com. It says in 1912, this Georgia county drove out every Black resident. Now, these were so-called white people terrifying, lynching our ancestors to the point where they had to leave their homes behind. Okay, this happened all over. It was us they took the land from. There's only one American history, and this is it. 1 million Black families in the South have lost their farms. Do you guys know that there's land that we can reclaim? The land that our ancestors fought and died for? We have always been here. This movie is telling us a lot.
Okay, so we're gonna. I'm gonna step on my soapbox for a second, but yes, this is deep. In the song, they literally say that he was minding his own business on the day they came. They showed a piece of paper saying "Eminent Domain." All right, now that is what is taking now in modern day, the Black family from Georgia, their land. It's being seized by this railroad company using eminent domain. Okay, so we're gonna take a little bit of a look at that story. Oh, get out of here. There we go. Okay. So Georgia court allows railroad to seize historic Black family land. Historic, okay? Georgia is letting a railroad seize land a Black family has owned for 100 years, okay? And they're talking about Andrew Benjamin Tarbutton, who was a slave owner in the 1850s, whose wealth, their generational wealth, was built on so-called slave labor. And it is his descendant. It is a Tarbutton nowadays who is like the owner of this railroad company, okay, who is taking the land from these previously enslaved descendants. Okay, it is literally the same situation. It's like they're going back, and anybody who was keeping their land, they're going to try to snatch that up too. And mind you, that's even happening to white folks. I mean, a lot of people right now, like there's a double sweep of taking away farmland and freedom, okay, from people all over. Okay, no, this is the land theft. Which one are we on, guys? Here we go. So they're talking about how it would also impact 92-year-old Ida Lowe Blocker, a 70-year-old Benny Clayton, and 78-year-old Benny Clayton, both who with deep roots in the community. Now, when we're saying roots, it's like you guys don't understand. We have always been here, and like I'm wondering if we should start to get into the other stuff. So I have built this foundation about the true identities of Black Americans. And, I'll play the original identifiers just to give us a touch of it, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, because it's like, I want to reference it, but I'm realizing this, like, okay, this has been like my main focus for the past, through different reorganizations and whatnot. It's been like my main focus for damn near the past decade. Okay. And so I forget that when I'm finally now sharing about it, I need to be really, really clear on exactly what it is that we're standing on and whatnot. And, so thank you guys for giving me grace as I refine this message. But basically what we're finding out was, and here in America, it was only white and Black. The whole entire story, we're here about white sides of towns and Black sides of towns, and there's no colors allowed on this side of town. That is just what we're remembering of the colonization of the people. But the Black people have always been there. They're the Americans. Okay, yeah. So you know what? Let me play the identifiers, and then we're going to get into another instance of eminent domain and from another 1850s situation. So let me get into it real quickly.
Who are the original Americans? History has been rewritten, but the truth remains. The foundation for American Indian restoration and education, or simply the FAIR, is here to set the record straight. Our foundation is simple. The FAIR stands on its signature original American identifiers to define what an original American truly is. Our mission is to uncover the truth, reconnect descendants, and restore a lost heritage. Through our fair original American identifiers, we reveal the true identity of the original American. The emblem of America. The emblem of America is an allegorical figure from the British Museum and is noted to be an ethnic representation of the American people. So what exactly is an American? The definition of American. The 1828 Webster's Dictionary defines an American as a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginal or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Colonial and U.S. Census records. Early U.S. Census records show that for the first 70 years, only two racial categories existed: colored and white. Who were these colored people? The fair asserts that they were the original inhabitants of this land. DNA. Ancestry.com DNA analysis labels the only communities for the region of indigenous North America as either African American or European settler. Surprisingly, there aren't any Native American communities listed for these lands, leaving the African American communities the only ones given the nationality American, proving that those labeled as African American today are the true original Americans. Your ancestry holds the key. The fair encourages everyone to research their genealogy, connect with historical records, and rediscover their true roots. Every generation carries a piece of the story, one that deserves to be reclaimed. Join us in reclaiming history. Visit the fair today. Connect with your roots and restore your identity.
Okay. So let me see. Let me stop this. So that's the foundation. Basically, when I say that it was only black and white, I mean, like, I'm being literal. Like, we just don't realize that when they make it seem like, oh, they've killed this race of Native Americans, and then they replaced the whole entire country and population with these Negroes that they contended with after that for like the next 200 years and whatnot. But it's like that's just not the truth. Like, one, there, the stealing and the theft of the land wasn't like kicking people out of their teepees, respectfully. Okay, that's not the American history that we're talking about. We're referring to when we're talking about so-called Black Americans being indigenous and being first here. America was built before settlers got here, and we lived in towns. Richmond, Virginia, or Atlanta, or like all of these cities and smaller towns, okay, were populated by Negroes first, and then it was settled by settlers, white folks. And the whole get out of here N-word, no colors allowed and stuff, that was the taking of the land. Massacres like Red Summer or the Trail of Tears, all of that was removing indigenous people off of the land so that there's more room for settlers. And really the other thing is supplanters. We can get into that into other videos. Hi, what's good, George? Welcome. We got George Richard in here from Huntsville, Alabama. Okay, let them know about Huntsville. All right. And the fair sets the record straight and lays out the facts so that things are very, very, very clear. Okay. We're looking at census records. Okay. Let me see. Did you know that during the first 70 years of the U.S. Census, there were only two categories for race and ethnicity? Those options were like colored and Negro and white. All right. And even the colored and Negro was split up into two categories, with the enslaved as well as the free. People don't even understand, because they tell us this blanketed story. They brought these people from Africa and, they were the slaves and stuff like that. That's a lie. That's not the truth. You know what I mean? That might be some people's history, but the majority of Black people in America our history ties back to the free inhabitants, okay, who were enslaved through treaties, contracts, land theft, okay, because if you don't have your own land, then you're having to buy and rent and mortgage with some other people and stuff like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? We no longer have our farms where we got our food and our resources so that we can live. All right. And this is very serious to me because, you know, when I get into and I talk about like the Indian kings and queens of Virginia and how we ended up being enslaved on our own plantation after the signing of the Treaty of Middle Plantation, where the English encouraged us to send our children and our descendants well, mind you, to go to school, to become servants on prominent plantations and stuff like that. Why? Why did they choose to do that to the leaders of the tribe? Because as natural leaders, everybody's going to follow us. Okay. And we were, as we got into these prominent plantations and we're, you know, working for the president and things like that. Okay. So that gets into my Mount Vernon history. Okay. I'm also a descendant of West Ford, George Washington's Negro son. You can check that out on like the West Ford Legacy page. As well as George and Billy Lee. And this gets deep, okay? And even the whole entire story of George cutting down the cherry tree and stuff, that was him taking down Aboriginal tribes. And even when we look at the definition of American from that 1828 Webster's Dictionary, let me see if I even have that on. Hold on. I know I'm jumping everywhere, y'all. Let me see. Okay, let me see. American and Native American. So let me get to the website so I can show you guys. Share. Okay, we're looking at American. A native of America originally applied to the Aboriginals or the copper colored, who were the colored people, okay, found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. The name American must always exalt the pride of patriotism, Washington, right? So this thing starts with, you know, when the identity switches, right? Because it was originally for the Aboriginals or the colored people. American is an ethnicity. We're gonna have to get really serious about standing on that, okay? Because it's like, it's okay to stand in the light and in the truth. A lot of people came here and they agreed upon lies so that this corporation can continue to subject the people, not only just the Aboriginal people, the Black people, the colored folks, okay? Not to give us labels, okay? I'm trying to say that so that people who are not already in the know can understand who I'm talking about, okay? But also everybody else from around the world who gets here and think that this is just life. People don't even realize, especially those who feel so strongly about the jobs and the money system and stuff, they don't realize that they are just born in slavery. You know how they used to say that? These people were born in slavery. That's all we know, okay? And we have no clue how things used to be because it's been, you know, forgotten. And all we have learned now is, you know, I'm going down so many different rabbit holes, but that's not the basis. So I want to get into the eminent domain because a lot of this makes sense. So let me get through just really quickly we're looking at American, right? Once called it was once referred to the Aboriginals or the copper colored people, but now referred to, you know, Europeans, the descendants of Europeans born here in America, right? That's the switch, right? Because now we've been given Europeans history, the settlers history. They said, you guys got off boats, but we didn't get off the boats. They did. We're the Americans, okay? So I'll prove that really quickly. We're going to make it quick. This doesn't have to get complicated. People like, you know, especially now that we've been so heavily indoctrinated, we feel like we have to have all of this heavy proof, but it's like, no, all we have to do is stand in the truth and everything else falls. Just like in the Wreck-It Ralph, all you have to do is stand up, okay? And the game is over. That's really the main point of the movie, even though we do look at all the different symbolisms and stuff, okay? So let me see. If we're looking at the census records, it was originally just white. If we're looking down, I know you guys can't see my cursor, but the bluish gray category, free white males and free white females, and then all other persons, which were the free, okay, or slaves, right? And even like I just told you guys about the Treaty of Middle Plantation and the Indian kings and queens of Virginia who ended up this is all, the treaties are contracts, and this gets deep, and that was a contract of subservience. That's why I'm so anti, like, I don't know if I finished that thought a second ago, but our ancestors became bougie with the jobs and what we're doing and all this stuff. And it's like, we had no clue that we were, leading people into the system. Jeez Louise, this kills me. Anyway, it was only just colored and white. Okay, free, like they said, free colored males and females. Did people know that there was free people? Okay, who are the free inhabitants, if not the indigenous? Okay, and this goes all the way 1840, 1850. They start to expand it to mulatto, right? And they're now including the mixtures between the whites and the coloreds, and then they created the American Indian, okay, which were for the mulattoes. Okay, so the white people who had babies with the Negroes, they're like, we want to be able to claim the heritage, and that's kind of how it went. Now, how does this connect to Black people today? All right, and it's funny because we're talking about Jesse Jackson, the creation of the term African American, right? When we look at Ancestry.com, and this is huge, okay, because people are taking these DNA tests and being discouraged from understanding who they are because they're being misleading. They will show you the part where it's like these estimates, ethnicity estimates, and they're telling all the Black people were from Africa. But there is another portion of the test called ancestral DNA journeys. Okay, and here, this is where we're really getting into it, and I shouldn't have taken so long to get to it, but basically what we're finding out is, for this region, Indigenous Americas North, okay, there are only two categories. You're either in an African American community or a European settler community. Now, that's very, very telling, because where are the so-called Native American communities? Just like in the census records, right? Where the first 70, it was just colored and white. First 70 years, it was just Black and white, right? And a lot of people were like, oh, well, they don't have enough information to get the indigenous DNA and all this stuff. That's just not true. It's not there. And really what we'll find out is if you are indigenous to America, okay, or let me say this, even the Native Americans who are on reservations and stuff from these lands, if they took this DNA test, their blood can only go into two different categories if they're historically and genetically linked to this land. And that would be either an African American community or a European settler community. And Ancestry.com makes a clear distinction between the two by giving the nationality American to the original people, right? They said American, African Americans, okay? African American, that is just a term that they created in the 90s. And now that we've all attached to it, they're like, okay, perfect. We're going to put that. But all you have to do is take off the African, just American. There aren't any other Americans from these areas. And you know what? Let me show you guys. Hey, what's good? Epic Studies official. Welcome, welcome. Let me show you guys. So, let me share the screen. Let me see if it'll hop over in this. So if you guys go, there's more information about everything that I'm talking about on fairrules.org. That's the website to the nonprofit. Oh, and also includes some genealogy resources. So if you are on a genealogy journey, you guys can come here and this will give you some starting points for each state that are listed. But on the All About DNA page, there's some videos, some petitions and things. And if you want to explore the map for yourself, you press this and it'll take you to the Ancestry.com support page. I didn't click over. Let me make sure you guys can see. And I'm gonna wrap it up because I do gotta get going, guys. Here we go. So let me show you guys what I mean. Are you guys seeing that? Okay, good. All right, so if we're looking, we're at North America. This is ridiculous. Hold on. Let me click out some of this stuff. All right. North America, the ancestral regions, right? We are talking about, now mind you, if we're ever talking, as we talk about kind of how information has been manipulated since people have been trying to talk about these things, ancestry.com is a perfect example. I've been trying to get this information out for some time, and then doing some back work, and through that journey, we've seen the way that they are putting out these DNA communities transform, okay, over time, but still they cannot hide that. If you go through this whole entire list, okay, of ancestral journeys, you're either going to be a settler, okay, here's some settlers, Tennessee settlers, or an African American. There aren't any native, quote unquote, Native American communities here, okay? And it might, mind you, they'll give you information for Mexico, New Mexico, and things like that. But really what we're seeing here is, let me see. Hold on. So here, dang. Okay, I have an idea. So what we're gonna do, so first let me show you what I mean. You see this green one? Okay, this area right here is what we're talking about. Okay, this area is filled with just African American communities, okay, or European settler. And then it will match up with, I'll show you kind of like, let me see if I can change it and then come back to it. Can you guys see that? Yay! Okay, cool. You guys see this? That is the same map, the Eastern Woodlands, okay? That's the same area that we're talking about here. What they were calling Indigenous America's North, okay? We are the woodland people, okay? And that gets down to food, gumbo, barbecue, grits, cornbread, hush puppies, hominy. I mean, all of the soul food, even thinking about Thanksgiving, right? The Thanksgiving meal is soul food, right? It wasn't Navajo tacos. Much respect to the Navajo. Okay, but these are two different types of people, okay? There's two distinct, what do you call it? Stock of people here in America. And, even when you look at the Navajo, the Apache, and things like that, those original people were very heavily complected as well, okay? Dark-skinned folks. And, each one of these clans and tribes, they just been, now represented by either mulatto or just other races. There's some amazing information that's coming out about how, when you start to look at the records of these people that were being classified as American Indian, they actually were born, here we go. Now we're going to circle back to Wreck-It Ralph. Thank you. This is a perfect segue. They actually were born in like Siberia or other countries or continents or places of the earth. But then when they got here, they were now being classified as Indian, okay, on their records. And we know that too through, just the understanding of $5 Indians. Now, what was going on was when they created these things called the Dawes Rolls, which was like a counting of indigenous people, they were not allowing full bloods, the colored folks, the free inhabitants, that they were now classifying as freedmen, okay? They weren't allowing the full bloods to get on those rolls, okay? They were, but anybody who had $5 were able to get on. This is not like, this is real history, okay? And so what do you think that we see now when we're looking at these civilized tribes and whatnot, okay? And I'm not trying to attack anybody, but I'm sure that some of them probably knew that this was coming, okay? Because you can't take over somebody's identity and then try to lock them out of it. That's insane. But we know the truth. Okay, so now we're gonna look at taking some time to get back around here, right? We're gonna get back into Eminent Domain. So I feel like let's listen to one more time the song, and then I'm gonna get into Seneca Village, you guys. Let me share that song. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me share that song. That's gonna be a new banger for me. Let me share that song. Here we go. Nah, let's get there. I hear my baby. Okay, hold on. Can you see? Okay, so you guys ready?
Ralph is a giant of a man, 9 feet tall with really big hands, living in a stump on his very own land. Living in a stump on his very own land.
Yes, you heard that right. Ralph, the one who's been beaten by the police, the one who lives in the ghetto, the one who has to look at all the rest of the nations live it up in the high-rise apartments and enjoy all the luxuries of life and get their medals. He is actually the landowner. Okay? And that goes the same for us. That's the reason why they treat us poorly. That's the reason why we're at the bottom of society. This is the reason why we've been put into ghettos. This is the reason why the police mess with us, is because we are actually the indigenous people of America. And that is how they subject and usurp people.
Oh, no, wait.
Until his world went crazy and he was minding his own business on the day they came. They showed a piece of paper saying eminent domain. They showed a piece of paper saying eminent domain.
Eminent domain is a huge keyword. That is literally the policy that the government used to steal the American Indians' land. Let's not forget, the American Indians were called niggas, okay? They are talking about us so-called black folk, all right? Eminent domain is the power of the government to take land for public use based on the concept of vacuum domicilium, meaning literally nobody home.
Okay, cool. So yeah, they're talking about eminent domain. It's like, why would they put this in a hey casino, welcome. Why would they put something like eminent domain in a little kids movie? Okay, so we just saw that there's a family right now in Georgia whose land is being taken. They've owned this land for over 100 years, and probably longer than that. Okay, that might be just when they might have actually got it in writing, but we didn't need paperwork for the land that we own ancestrally. We just held allodial title. Are you guys understanding what I'm saying? Okay, Aboriginal title. We were the original people that we didn't need paperwork to claim the land that we've always lived on. All right, and how do we know we're talking about black people? Okay, go to the beginning. We watched the whole entire thing about Wreck-It Ralph getting beaten by the police, living in the ghetto, all these things. Okay, the whole entire villains decode, the hatchets, like it's so good. It's good. Okay. What's good, Miss Cheryl? Welcome. Alito. So let's look at another example of eminent domain. Hold on, let me back it up a little bit like a dump truck. Okay, yeah, we're gonna look at this one. You guys ready? And then I gotta go too. I'm sorry. We'll be back though. I'm not even gonna say what we're gonna do. We're just gonna do it. Okay. Let me see. Let me share it with you. Because this is going to be good, because I was telling you guys already that it was only black and white, colored and white. white side of town, black side of town. We now know that the black people here first, because even Ancestry.com are calling us the Americans and then the settlers. That makes American history. All you have to do is look at it through that lens, and now all of a sudden, one, things make sense. Okay, there was only two people here. Oh, I smell we're grilling today. Lord, child. I should get into barbecue, okay? Because barbecue is another indigenous American food. Okay, very American Negro. But yes, no, my daughter left the door open. I'm smelling meat grilling and whatnot. Okay, we got beans, greens, potatoes, yeah, you name it. All right. Let me get back to it. My mind is like. Okay, here you guys ready? I hope you guys can see it. There we go. Okay, cool. So let me get back and I present. So we're going to be talking about Seneca Village and eminent domain, okay? It refers to the power of the government to take private property and convert it into public use, all right? This is what they were using to take the land from indigenous people, and now we're finding out that those indigenous people are what they were calling colored or black, and they're still doing it to this day. Seneca Village was a portion of what is now Central Park, and it was owned by free people of color, okay? Now, and it was also taken by eminent domain. This is from the 1850s. They enacted eminent domain to take the land after supposedly offering him $3,500, okay? Now, mind you, it's worth more than $100,000 now, and probably even more now that I really, really think about it. And this family isn't the only one. There was a whole bunch of families that lived here in what they called Seneca Village. Now, they were trying to say that they were calling themselves Seneca Village must be because they were from Senegal, because all black people, you can't be a black person here in America if you weren't from Africa, which doesn't make sense because in New York, there is in that area a tribe called Seneca Village, which is now just being represented by white people. Right? And this goes back to the definition of American. I'm sorry, I don't want to seem like I'm putting people out, but this is just, we have to let things be very clear. Hold on a second. Chat, I gotta go. Okay, but a Native of America originally applied to the Aboriginals or the copper-colored races. Okay, found here by the Europeans, but now it's applied to descendants of Europeans born in America. And that's really what we're finding out. They're teaching us that it's like, oh, we're taking, the Native Americans that the land was stolen from, and there are these, how Plains Indians sort of thing. When in all actuality, it's the settlers who are now claiming themselves to be American, and they're receiving all of this Indian money that was supposed to, hold on a second again. Okay, so this is what it gets down to. And as we looked at the DNA, we're finding out that there's really only, like they say in the ethnicity estimates, that we're from Africa, but in all actuality, there's like no Native American communities for this land. Their only communities are African American and European settlers, okay? And if it wasn't an ethnicity, they could have also just said European Americans, just like they're saying African Americans. But no, African American is a misnomer that was just created less than 30 years ago. And the reason why I'm using terms like Negro and stuff, because that's and colored, because those are the words that are historically documented. Okay, they keep changing who we are on paper, and so we're not able to connect back to our people. You know what I'm saying? In our lands, in our deeds and patents. Okay, to the land. Okay, where was I going with this? Okay, like I said, colored and white. Now, if we get back to the, how do I do that? I'm sorry. As we get back to the Seneca Village, right? we're looking at the census of 1855 for that area. What we're finding is that getting bigger for you guys? Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. What we're finding is that all of the people marked colored or black, right? Let me give you a nice example. Hold on now. I need to get my glasses. Hold on one second. I'm like, I can't see y'all. Oh, here. Okay. Oh, that's so much better. Okay, so what we're finding out is that all of the black people, so-called colored folks, okay, because there's only white and black even in Seneca Village. All of the colored folks were born here. Okay, New York, some people from like Virginia, they came up and joined them, and then all of the so-called white people were born in like Germany or Ireland. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? So it's like, even in this situation, 1855, we're looking at this community, all of the black people were American born. We were that's why we're the Americans. Okay, even on ancestry.com today. But all of the white people were in Germany. So it's like, how could anybody come here and say that they're the ones determining who is this and federally recognizing people? That doesn't make any sense. We have been here. We were here before them. All those people were born there in New York, the Seneca Village of the Seneca people. They have just kind of shifted the culture around Indigenous Americans to seem something that is not so-called, Negro or colored. I don't know if this is your first time listening. I'm not really attached to these labels. I'm just trying to get the point across. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. Even here in this New York situation, we're looking at this community where it was just white and black. The Seneca people. Let me see. Here's another side. All the black people are all the B's, which now I'm even looking at. It looks like they've actually, because I've seen somebody talking about that. It was originally an I for Indian, and then they added just a little to make them into B's, which is very interesting. I haven't noticed this on the census before, but all these people were born like here, Virginia, New York. All the people from white, they were born in like France, Germany. Okay. No, it was only the children that were now born in New York. Like I said, descendants of Europeans now born in America are now considered Americans. But this was originally us, okay? Now, was there anything else I wanted to get into? Seneca, let me see if there's anything. That's crazy. Oh, I think that was where I was getting that from. It's gone now. It's very interesting. I'm going to switch this. Here's some more census records we're finding out that all the colored people were American born in Jesus. Hold on. You guys even see this anymore? All right. I'm trying to switch the page and see what else. But you know what? One second. Give me a second, guys. Oh, I have that was one last thing, this picture. Here's a an image of what the Seneca people look like. This is Deerfoot. He was like an amazing racer of the time. You see it, okay? You see it. So why couldn't we be, you know what I'm saying? We're naming ourselves these things for any reason. Mind you, these people aren't my direct ancestors or anything like that, but I'm just saying in general, Black Americans, you know what I mean? They call themselves Seneca, they call the place Seneca Village because they were the Seneca people. But our heritage, our clans and stuff has been taken over by our white counterparts, and we've been lied to. And mind you, it's like, hey, hi, what's good? I'm seeing people come through. Hi, Infinite Styles, welcome. Bliss Americans, American Indians. Hey, what's good, Michael? Welcome. Much love to you guys. Yeah. So what else? We have the emblem of America. We love her. She this is an allegorical figure that you can now find in the britishmuseum.org. And if we go to the website here, they say that she's a representation of American peoples, okay? Who are the Americans? We're finding out that it's us, okay? Hey, welcome. Oh, hi, people from Twitch. Hi, Twitch family. What's good? Okay, before I leave, I also want to say thank you to everybody who has joined the fair, people who have been, I mean, we have, on a daily basis, we're being tuned in from like literally all around the world. Let me see. Welcome and thank you to our friends. Where are we at? That's crazy. I'm trying to get to my Wix dashboard. But it's been so amazing. Like, you know, here we're super indoctrinated, especially, you know, so-called Black people here in America. I'm always saying America, so let me take this off. And so it's like taking us a minute, but people from all around the world have been waiting for us to wake up, and they are tuning in, people, okay? Welcome to our friends in St. James, New York, Springfield, New England, Fremont, Hayward, California, some local folks. Jackson, Mississippi, Lake Charles, Louisiana, Prineville, Oregon. Welcome, welcome. Pennsauken, New Jersey. That's just within the past day or so. Oh, here we go. It loaded us up. We are seeing people from Austria, Australia, Niagara Falls, Canada, Germany, Edmonton, United Kingdom. I said Perth, Australia. Let's see what else. Our friends in South Korea, the Netherlands, Amsterdam's tuning in, okay. Singapore. This is just within the past, like less than the past month, okay. Thank you guys for supporting the fair. I'm so excited for this to get this out. I will end this on what else were our friends from Zapopan, Mexico and Mexico City. Our friends from Poland, Russia. Hi, Moscow. Welcome, welcome. And all over America. I mean, we've had, you know, visitors from California, Texas, Georgia, Pennsylvania, California, Florida, New York, Missouri, Ohio, Maryland, Virginia, New Jersey, Kentucky, Illinois, Tennessee, Arizona, Washington, North Carolina, Oregon, Michigan, Oklahoma, Indiana, Alabama, Louisiana, Wisconsin, South Carolina, Mississippi, Colorado, Arkansas, DC, Rhode Island, Vermont, Kansas, Minnesota, Iowa, Massachusetts, Montana, Nevada, Delaware, and Hawaii. So thank you guys, for your support all over. We're super excited to continue to share this truth. But honestly, this is just a basis of the foundation, okay? As we're getting into wanting to rectify the misinformation from ancestry.com, as well as like getting the government to tell the truth about who the free inhabitants were. There's so many people, like when I get on there, like on Facebook, my newsfeed is filled with just people talking about this Indigenous American truth. And now more than ever, it's important for us to come together so that we have one, unified core curriculum sort of message and standing, okay? And for us to be able to strengthen those of us who wants to tell their story, their history, the research that they have found, to build it in within our foundation, to write our own history of this time right now. We have been restored through the research and great works of so and 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 so. That's how this sort of thing works. I started this message talking about some of the channeled messages that I've been receiving over the past few days, including closing ranks, unifying, and coming together. Okay, that is what is being asked of us now. I'm gonna do more of these. Thank you guys for joining me today and for tuning in. I love you guys more than you guys can know. I'm so honored to serve our nation, okay? And I know that this is like, it's been a long time coming. And for those of you guys who've been with me for a long time, thank you guys for your patience. I've been transforming, and I've had a lot thrown at me over the past few years and whatnot, and it's the real deal, okay? Because there's nothing that's gonna stop me from explaining this, okay? And I know that the people are worried because they're over here scrubbing the internet of my history, all right? So that's another thing, researchers, especially as you're sharing this online, you need to get PDF copies, of the website itself, whether you're screenshotting, scrolling down. We need copies of that for our own, archives and whatnot. That's another thing that we could do through the fair. If there's somebody else, on this earth in this country that has an archive, like a secure archive that can't be hacked or tampered with or whatnot, we'll just partner with them. That's it. All of our I was even thinking about, like, these people here in Georgia whose land is now being taken by eminent domain. There's a lot of different like organizations that are, dedicated to just Black land reclamation and whatnot. All of those organizations need to be unified, okay, together. All of those resources and people and things like that need to be on one page. We're all like independently trying to do things. And that goes back to even the Indian Appropriations Act, that I talked about earlier when I was doing that Wreck-It Ralph decode and whatnot, about how they made us individuals instead of sovereign, tribal nations and whatnot. Once we became individualized, it's like, we're all one man or woman out for ourselves, when, right now we need to come together. Every single brick, needs to be put together for this big foundation so that, we can make real standings. Like, we need to be able to do things like enumerations. We need to be able to count all of us, who are, blood Americans and whatnot. So we know how many of us we are. We can, pledge our names and, our backing, okay, to efforts to not only get our reparations, but our restitution, as well as the land reclamation. Okay. I know this seems kind of like, what is going on over here? I can't do like, I'm not I don't even want to say I'm not, because it's like, I don't want to limit myself. Okay. You got to be careful with the words that you say, but it's like naturally, let me start on. As I see what's going on here and about how we have been taken over by institutions, companies, education systems, okay, whether we're talking about textbooks or districts or whatever, okay, it seems like we are up against huge machines. That's another reason why unity right now is like imperative. We have to come together, because us saying it just by ourselves, hey, you know, I have this information, it's like, yeah, that's cool and that's good, and we're getting the information out there and we're waking up minds and we're priming the people, okay, but we're gonna have to come together and have like a solidified stance, all right? And there's organizations that are doing part of that. We're all just gonna come together, okay? That's how that works. But as we look at this big machine that we're faced with, it's like I start to think it's like, you know, dang, you know, we should be way more strategic about how we're rolling this information out and whatnot. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like, I'm not that person. I'm a visionary. I have blueprints of how to come together in my DNA. Okay. Things like that. But we're going to need our best minds on, you know, how to create and make these messages stronger. We're going to need, you know, educators on how to put this curriculum and stuff together. I'm showing you guys a little bit about Wreck-It Ralph. I mean, there's so many movies, even like how I referenced in that Wreck-It Ralph, like we go into the Descendants, the zombies, the Trolls movies, like there's a lot. And I've talked about it a little bit behind here in some past streams. You guys can go and take a look at some of the little things, but it gets deep, okay? And it not only talks about, you know, the fact that we were here first in all of these movies, okay, and how we were discovered here and how they encroached upon us, like them getting into the trolls, and they talk about even hanging us from trees and eating us, like it's deep, okay? But they also talk about the differences between the slave mentalities and the free mentalities, and how all of these people come together in the end to help get the land and the resources. It talks about, you know, what happened to us when we thought we were making all this progress in this system, when they were really just like making fun of. That was another part. When I started to realize who I was and I started watching these movies, I was like, oh, they are mocking the heck out of us. They said you traded land and freedom, right, for progress within a system that never was built for us and didn't want us in the first place, until it became, you know, a way to neutralize all of us, okay, by integrating us within this, you know, so that all of our, not only all of our wealth and taxes goes into the system and feeds it, but also just like the fact that we can't like even be pro ourselves. So somebody was talking about like being pro-Black is like corporate suicide. And it's like, that's crazy. We can't say that we love ourselves, that our lives matter and stuff. The same lives that build their companies. Okay. Now I'm going into it. This is long enough. I love you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. Like I said, I'm just so honored and happy to be able to serve the nation. And I look forward to, you know, collaborating and unifying our people so that we can make stronger stances towards, you know, our restoration. Okay. Like, it's a beautiful morning. You know, every day we should wake up with smiles on our faces to know that we are living in incredible times where the truth is out. I'm going to leave you guys with another video breaking down a little bit more about the DNA. But yeah, I hope you guys are going to have a wonderful day. I'm going to get back to my barbecue and whatnot and and I will see you guys all later. Much love.
For years, we've been told a version of history that simply isn't true. But what if I told you that the proof of who the true original Americans are has been hiding in plain sight? Inside Ancestry.com's own data. Most people only pay attention to the ancestral regions in their DNA results. But there's another section most people overlook, something called ancestral journeys. And this section tells a very different story. In the region known as Indigenous America's North, there are only 2 community groups listed: African American and European settler. No Native American communities. None. That means, according to Ancestry.com, the only groups historically rooted in this land are Black Americans and European settlers. This lines up exactly with the 1828 Webster's Dictionary definition of American, which states an American is a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals, or copper-colored races, found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. So who are the present-day, copper-colored Aboriginals from these lands? The African Americans. And who are the descendants of the European arrivals? The settlers. How do we know this is the truth? Because in Ancestry.com's own data, they are giving Black Americans the nationality American, while labeling their oppressors settlers. The truth has been in front of us all along. This isn't just about one group. This is about correcting history for everyone. Ancestry.com's own research confirms what has been hidden for centuries, but they refuse to acknowledge it. That's why we're calling on Ancestry.com to tell the truth. Our petition demands full transparency and an end to this misclassification. Because history belongs to all of us, and it's time to set the record straight. Sign the petition now. Share this video. Because the truth matters to all of us.